there, my name's Jill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hi there, and welcome to the podcast by Collaboration Global called Being Human, Hidden Depths. And this is a very special episode today, for I am meeting one of my heroes. And at the time of the Olympics over in Paris, it seems very fitting that we have an Olympic champion with us today. Welcome, Fatima. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thank you, Jill. It's lovely to be sharing this platform with you. And through a common friend, my vice chair of Fatima's UK campaign, Gina Gardner, who I met a year ago on a platform talking at the Westminster Chapel mental health. And it was, since we've been inseparable, working towards, helping and improving children in care and young people life chances. So yeah, it's been a really busy year and really exciting as well.
Yeah, she's an amazing lady, and we do wish her well with everything that she's doing, but with the two of you as well. It's what a team you are. And talking of teams, it would be remiss of me to say, what are you thinking of the Olympics so far?
Well, I mean, it's been amazing to sit back and watch the Olympics unfold. And from the very first few days when we were winning medals, I mean, it was obvious to me that we're on course for being the best Olympics that we've had.
Wow.
And which is particularly pleasing, especially when you look at the youngsters that are coming through, and they're doing so well. I mean, if this doesn't inspire or motivate a generation of young people to sit back and think, what is it can I do?
Yeah.
Whether it be in sport or just generally, find your purpose and get down to it, because hard work never killed anybody, as my auntie used to tell me in the children's home, Auntie Ray, and she was right, because if you put your mind to it, there's that saying, 21 days of practice becomes a habit, and then from the habit, you can almost, perfect something, to a high level. So yeah. It's wonderful to be watching the Olympics and seeing so many of our British athletes doing so well. So congratulations to them. And those of you that made the Olympics, that in itself is an achievement anyway. So
just being there, yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? I just can't imagine what that must feel like. Especially, I was listening to somebody being interviewed about walking into the Olympic Village for the first time, and it must be this, I'm here. It must be just so cool to get there.
It's an amazing feeling, because the Olympics is all about solidarity, respect, and friendship. I mean, it's as wonderful as it is, we're seeing these over 200 countries competing against the best of the rest in the world. I mean, I remember back in my days, I went to 4 different Olympics, so I understand it well. But, for anybody to be on the fringe of that, just by spectators or being around that atmosphere in the stadium where these competitors are, and countries are competing, it's just, an amazing feeling. Even the athletes from different sports staying in the village together, going to the canteen, having an array of different foods from all around the world, being able to rub shoulders with the likes of the tennis, with swimming and judo and BMX. It's just an amazing thing to be a part of. And they have these little pins. Each country have these pins, and they collect the different pins from all the different countries.
Oh, that's
really
nice.
lovely.
Oh, do you wish you were competing now, or you think, been there, done that, got the medal?
Of course, I was very fortunate that I'm fortunate in some respects that I got injured, and back then when I actually ruptured my shoulder, my rotator cuff, which was, put an end to my career 8 years, I think, too soon. But at least I always say, at least I was able to experience what it was like to be at the top, go to these major championships. I won 11 major championship medals across the board, European, world records, Olympics, World Cups, Europa Cups. And, from the very young age of 16, when I made my first full international at Crystal Palace, which was back then the National Sports Centre of Britain. I've had an illustrious career, but I guess, back then as well, in the early days, I mean, they didn't have keyhole surgery. So that really what finished me, because my injury that I sustained couldn't be done through keyhole surgery. It had to be cut, obviously, and the nerve box was cut. And that effectively ended my career. So at least I didn't have to make the decision when to retire, which is always really hard for top sport men and women to do.
Yeah, it's like poor old Andy Murray never knew when to quit, did he? He had the wanted to keep on going. It must be tough. And then you go part two. What's next? And then you've got all these wonderful. I mean, after being made Sports Personality of the Year as well, which was a huge accolade, then you're visible on TV as this personality. So it's like, well, hang on, what do I do now? Did you ever consider, what am I going to do? Or did it just kind of float you down the road and you ended up doing all these incredible things that you've done since the Olympics?
Well, I've been blessed because I worked within the athletics circuit before I retired. Obviously, amateurism was, when we were competing, it was an amateur sport, and it was coming out of amateurism into professionalism. My late husband, Andy, was the organizer for British athletics and world athletics. And when I arrived on the scene and started performing well, I was involved with a lot of the hospitality events around the track and field. And I learned an awful lot with working with managing directors and their wives in the corporate field. And of course, after I had to retire, naturally, I gravitated to doing sports marketing. And I looked after 34 top athletes like Linford Christie, Sally Gunnell, Stephen Backley, Colin Jackson, and I also ran development programs in the school system for 15 years, working with the schools, the local authorities, and the clubs. So the grassroots level sport, and through that grass level sport, we found people like Kelly Holmes, Paula Radcliffe, Ewan Thomas. Wow. So I've had an extensive, understanding for what on both sides of the fence as a competing athlete, in the marketing side as well, and in the corporate hospitality side. I used to work for, for the sport when I was competing and looking after delegates from all around the world at the major events, and their wives, looking after their wives mainly while they were working. And also, I was a non-executive director for 10 years on the National Health Trust Board at Essex National Essex South East Essex Health Authority. And I've really, I was involved with the closure of South Ockenden Hospital mental health ward, getting people integrated into the community, back into residentials. I've really enjoyed, an awful lot and packed in an awful lot in my early years. And I still feel my best years are yet to come, because my ministry today is obviously Fatima's UK campaign, which is using my lived experience and my Olympic platform to further support young children and people in the care system to improve and rejuvenate the care system sector by bringing a summit together next year, which is in April 23rd and 24th of 2025 at the Guildhall in London. Wow. Which, may I add, is a wonderful opportunity to address and improve the healthcare system, the children's welfare and the care system, by bringing the collaboration of partnerships together and shared good practice and knowledge. So And of course, private sector, bringing the private sector in, because the government itself, I mean, I know since the 60 years that I lived in the care system, with governments have come and gone, and they've kicked that same tin can down the road.
Yeah.
So, not a lot has changed. There is some good stuff out there, but it's spattered all on the ground floor area, and nobody collaborates, nobody talks. So
Exactly. This is my philosophy, that there's no problem out in our world at the moment that doesn't already have a solution, providing we come together and collaborate. And it's bringing all these threads of people together, that this person's doing that, and then they blame that because they didn't do that. So, well, I'm not going to do that then. And before you know it, it's all disjointed, and there's never enough money to go around. Well, actually, there's an awful lot being wasted along the way. So it's like, come together. And what you're doing, and I'm just so in awe of what you are doing, is you are pointing the arrow directly at the problem. Let's remember the children. Let's remember the children. Just let's look after the children first and get everything sorted. We don't care what your problems are. We don't care whether you've got enough money. We don't care how you're going to do it. Just get the job done, because it's not fair. Now, I know this is from your story of your upbringing. And obviously now you've told us about your years of working in schools as well. You must have seen many, many children that you've gone, oh, they're living my life. They're living the same life that I had. And I can see that from a distance. What can I do to help them? So I can see perfectly this joining of dots from your birth through to now. It's like you are now going, right, let's stop the mucking about. Let's get something done. And that's why the name is Action for Children, isn't it? Fatima's UK campaign. It's like, come on, let's get something done. For those that don't know, could you just briefly tell us, without...
Well, it's Fatima's UK campaign, and if you want to support me, go on fatimascampaign.com,
right.
and help me make a difference to these young people's lives, to make a change. I'm always doing challenges. I've just got back from Everest Base Camp.
Wow.
Of which I've done the base camp challenge. And I'm always looking to raise the profile and awareness of what Fatima's campaign's all about, and helping to rejuvenate the care system and life chances of these children and young people. I'm off to the Pyrenees in September, on September the 9th, actually, and I'll be walking from the Bay of Biscay, from France to Spain, and Spain back to France. Yeah, so basically it's all about trying to bring those collaborations together, bring awareness to what make these children more visible, because they've been invisible for such a long time, and so they can be seen, heard, and valued. I mean, it goes back to my very early days, when abandoned as a baby, and then some would say left to die. A neighbour heard a baby crying in a flat and hadn't seen anybody coming or going in a couple of days. So she called the police, who then came and banged the door down and rescued the baby, which was myself. And then I spent the next 7 months in hospital recovering from malnutrition and nappy rash. I'm pleased to say, Jill, I got over the nappy rash.
That's good to know. Thank you for clearing that up.
And then within that 7 weeks of being in hospital, I was made a warder court by Hackney Borough Council, of which then I spent the next 14 years of my life in children's homes. Now, I mean, children's homes back then in the 60s were quite different to what they are now. Back then it was like we had 20 children in the first home that I went to in Hertfordshire, in Ware, in Hoddesdon, a place called Hoddesdon. And, nobody ever really took the time to talk to kids back then. It was, our emotional needs were never really met. And we were just a statistic, a number. And I haven't had any, indication there was any family out there, like family visits or birthdays, Christmas cards, or anything like that. And I can remember playing in the front room, where the front room was the playroom with all the children, and it faced the car park. And anybody that came into the car park, I'd always say, "Is that my mummy coming to collect me?" Yeah. Which is what a lot of young children, which happens to a lot of young children, unfortunately. It did certainly happen to us back in those days. We had young 16-year-olds that lived in the village that used to come in and help the kids get up and get them ready, take them for a walk or play in the garden with them, just to keep an eye on the kids. We had a matron who looked after the home at the time, but everything was very functional. And you can imagine with kids, 20 kids in a home, there's routine.
Yeah.
And if I look back, I think, no, actually the routine it's good. People, I mean, I've been somebody that loves a routine. I love it to this day, not just as a kid, but also because to be a top flight international athlete, an Olympian, you have to have routine. You have to stick to the plan. Yeah. And, I was part of that was instilled within me from my childhood days. And the other part that was instilled in me was the inner strength that I had to have. And what a lot of these young people have that live in the care system is what they call resilience, because they were constantly living with trauma and triggers. And it's so important for our young people to have, good role models around them. I mean, one of the homes I had was Auntie Ray, and I call her my bright shining star. Auntie Ray used to look after our kids. I called her the tickle monster. The reason why I called her the tickle monster was because when I knew Auntie Ray was coming on duty, I used to hide under the bed sheets, and I wouldn't move until she tickled me and got me up. And I knew then that my day had started off on the right foot. And most of us kids felt that way because we knew Auntie Ray just got us. She just understood us kids. Yeah. We felt safe with her. And a lot of young people today, that's all they need is somebody in their lives they can connect to. These children in the care system need good role models, need to, continuity, stability in their life. And, we've got 110,000 kids in the care system as we speak. And there's a shortage of 10,000 foster carers. So, and it's predicted by 2026 we'll have about 26,000 shortage. Okay. It is a tough, challenging world for our young children today, and no less so than for those kids in the care system, because we should really be celebrating them. They've got a remarkable resilience. They bring something that a lot of kids in conventional families don't have. They're not exposed to whilst growing up. The toughness that our young kids have to go through, the thinking off their feet, reading a room and energy. It's a great attribute to have, especially moving forward into the workplace, and that's another area that we look at with Fatima's UK campaign, in bringing in private companies that we can help to skill up our young children when they get to the age of 18, and they become independent or are told they have to become independent living. It's very difficult for these kids because independent living would, as you would conjure up in your mind somebody who's living independently very well. But in actual fact, 33% of these young children that go independent living at 18 end up homeless because they do not have the ability to stay independent living. They don't have jobs. They're, some of them are traumatized in the way that they stress academically, not being able to work at school as they would normally be able to have had a good family background and stability. They don't have the bank of mum and dad or aunts and uncles, nans and granddads to support them or circumnavigate them through life, which is, even today, my son's 26 and he still lives at home. Most conventional children's, they live at home much longer because they can't get a foot on the ladder. And it's no different from these young people, at 18. Think about that. If that was your child, you cast them out into the world and told them just to get on with it with £3,000, which is what the government corporately as their parent do. It's pretty tough, a tough existence.
What do you see as a difference between, the person I see in front of me now seems obviously resilient, and you have an energy about you that is a determination, but you have a calm, you have a very strong sense of calm emanating from you. Now, is that something that you chose to have? And do you see that in other children when you're working with these children, that some of them have that kind of
I'll explain it a bit more to you, Jill. When I was living in care, clearly everyone who lives in care knows how difficult it is, with triggers and traumas. And we all get traumatized, our primary care years. Not even if we're in care, some people still have trauma in their life. It's learning to know how to deal with that trauma, to be able to see past traumas, coming in through in future events. And when it comes at you, knowing how to deal with that is so important. And doing healing work is really important, because that skills you up and gives you the tools to know how to deal with that. Now, when I was in care, Auntie Ray, I always say, she was my bright shining star. And I remember running up the top of the staircase and looking out the port window, and I thought, oh, where's she going to? I could hear her clip-clopping up and down the road. And I thought, oh yeah, she lives on the end of that road there on the corner. Now, she was an East End lady, full of the life, lots of laughter with Auntie Ray. And I remember picking these daffodils all round the home. I went into people's garden, naughty girl, picked these daffodils. And I must have been about 10 at the time. And I walked down to Auntie Ray's house, and I knocked on the door, and I hid the flowers behind my back. And then when she opened the door, I said, will you be my mummy? I presented the flowers to her. So Auntie Ray said, oh, Fat, she said, come round the back, let's talk about this. And I thought, I'm going to be in trouble now. But she sat me down in the kitchen, and this is two things I learned that day, which will stay with me for the rest of my life. She sat me down, she said, Fat, she said, I can't just be your mum. She said, I've got to be mum to all these children. She said, but here's the thing. She said, I'm not always there. She said, and you are. She said, so why don't you be there, mum, when I'm not there?
Oh, yeah.
So what that taught me is, and I thought about it, and what it taught me, in giving, you receive. And it's so true, because these children's emotional needs were rarely being met. And there was always a sea of emotion in the home, which you could very rarely get above that parapet. So it was pulling you down quite often. And kids cannot process what's going on in their life. They blame themselves, they torture themselves inwardly, and they imprison themselves in their minds of thinking that it's their fault they're there, and that's why they're not got their mummy. And what that did for me with Auntie Ray was, it taught me in looking after their emotional needs, it also fed my soul. It helped me. And that helped me in turn to then swivel the lens. So I was looking outwardly, and I didn't grow up feeling victimized by my circumstance. I realized the importance of calling out any injustice to these children, which was many that went on within the homes, and looking after their emotional needs. So playing with them as well. So like in the bedroom with 7 or more kids in our second home, the girls, 14 all told, but girls' room had 7, 8 kids. And I always used to get up, and we always used to do trampolining on the beds or pillow fights, just being kids, really.
Yeah.
And drawing on the windows in the morning, the steamed up windows, matchstick men. Obviously, this was the kind of fun we installed. This is what I tried to install with the young kids that were crying when they were going to bed at night for their mummy, or waking up in the night wetting the bed, rocking themselves to sleep, all these kinds of things. I guess
a very wise woman,
was
it she, your Auntie Ray? She was a very wise woman.
She was, yeah. She was, as I said, I've written a book, actually, which is coming out October the 24th. It's called My Bright Shining Star. It's an illustrated book for 3 to 11-year-olds, and it's about a young Fatima in the care system. It's there to support children in the care system, so the funds go to that, the Fatima UK campaign. And it also brings about an awareness and educates people to thinking about what these children go through in the care system, also helps the children that come into the care system who fear what's going to happen to them. It's a very simple story told with pictures and text that will, I think change people's perspective about what children's homes or children's in care is all about. Help young children that have got children in their classes that, to understand. If we get this book in, which we're hoping to do, in the libraries, in the schools, in the children's care departments all across the country, in supermarkets, in bookshops, and it's to elevate and build a platform of awareness about our young children in the care system, because they've been so invisible for so long that people's misconceptions about these children, are vast, which is, awful really when they think. I mean, you very rarely get to hear about children in the care. You might get the isolated one instance like baby P, which came up. But yet there's so much wrong out there within our care system sector that needs to be addressed, that needs to be regulated, that needs to share good practice and knowledge to be improved to help the outcomes for these young people. From early intervention, through going through the care system itself, to coming out for 18 to 25-year-olds and bridging that gap in putting together programs that we can help our young people build happier lives, better, safer and healthier lives, and better communities and a nicer kind of society, because we all have that moral and ethical responsibility to do what we can to improve, children's life outcomes and put them on a path to an unstoppable, path to reaching their goals. Because without working in collaboration and partnerships, without recognizing there is this problem in the first place, and having people doing the marvelous work that they do and being recognized for what they're doing by working in collaboration with others, it's not likely to spread and in the far corners of the depth and breadth of the country that it should, in order to filter through and make that difference and bring that change about, that what's necessary, which has been antiquated for so many years. It's so important.
Yeah, I mean, you paint a picture, and that word invisible is so true, because we assume it's going on and it's fine and it's okay. And like you say, we get the odd news flash of something horrendous that's happened. And then we kind of glance in that direction, but we don't think on long-term strategies like you're talking about. I know one of our members at Collaboration Global, she donates her time to help young people, and they might have special learning needs or all sorts of things, but they've been going from foster care to foster care to foster care, but she becomes their constant. So once a month or once a fortnight, she will take them out to the cinema or to, swimming or whatever it is, and she'll, buy them something nice, and so she'll treat them a little bit, but she will be their constant. So if they're not getting on with a foster mum or whatever, they've got her to go and they can have a chat to, because she's always been there from the age of like 11 all the way through to 20 or something. And it's like knowing that there is that opportunity to just donate your time in that way. People don't know that. They don't think about it, do they?
Well, no, because there's, as I said, not enough spoken about it. But as I said earlier, she's doing a wonderful job. Having good role models is so important for these young people. They, as I said, they don't have aunts and uncles. They don't have nans and granddads who they can turn to. Intergeneration is important for young people's lives, and also for the older person. So if you're listening, if you've got any of your listeners that are hearing this, never be afraid to think about the option on the opportunity of fostering, because it is a tough job, but it's also very rewarding. And for a lot of people that may feel lonely even, providing the due diligence is all done and everyone's happy, there's no need to be isolated on your own. You can foster these young people, the young children and young people, and they can, intergenerationally, it can be a wonderful opportunity both for the child and for the elderly person. And the other misconceptions that we've had also is the same sex, they can adopt or foster. The same with disabled people. No reason why a disabled person can't foster. and also and working people. Most conventional families, both parents work.
That's true.
So,
That's true. And as you say, these invisible children are part of our future. And if they're all going to come out of this care system and they're going to be resentful and angry and full
well,
of emotion, that's
yeah.
not going to do our society very good as they
Well,
come.
I always say that. I've always said that. Basically, who and what our young early intervention is really important for our young people, because who and what they become will decide for what society ends up. You know, and we all, that's why I say we all have a moral and ethical responsibility to do what we can for these children, because they are our future. You know, and that we need to be able to look after the generations of children beyond ours. And if we don't start putting in place, and it's not so much that there's nothing in place, there's certain things that are in place, but it's not monitored, it's not regulated, it's dysfunctional because people don't collaborate, and there's no cohesiveness there. And also we need to be sure that, you know, that there's enough for everybody to share in terms of finance, with regard to bringing in private sectors with knowledge and resources that can best serve communities and children within those boroughs, and also to support young apprenticeship programs for kids that are coming out of care as well, to be able to skill them up, get them into work so they can live a proper independent life. And that's basically what we all want, isn't it? I mean, when you look at the mountain, I always say that, you know, do you want the cliff, a fence at the top of the cliff, or an ambulance at the bottom?
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's what it's what the efforts we put in install in place to a safety net to make sure this whole children's care system is working properly and serves the right purpose, and delivers the right outcomes for these young people when they move forward to young adulthood.
I think it is this overhaul of the current system, and the current system is in place not because it was chosen. It's evolved from Victorian times, and I think society has allowed it to happen because, like nursing and teaching, it's a kind of seen as a feminine role, and women will do it for love because it's a vocation. It's not a proper career. And it's like, well, hang on, let's just look at the problem. And if we take finance out of the situation, if we look at what we should be doing, loving these children, if you're loving them, would you allow them to go through what they're going through? No. So let's find that solution. And let's find that, as you say, through collaboration. There is the money out there. It's always been out there. It just needs to be funneled and siphoned into the right place with the right culture around that whole system in place. And we do need love at the bottom of it. And just because women are willing to roll their sleeves, and they're men as well, don't get me wrong, but just because it's a vocation and we are doing our best because we feel sorry for these children, actually it's much bigger than that. It should be that if you are a basic human, decent person, you should be wanting to contribute to make sure that nobody has to suffer like this in any way, shape or form. And there are so many people in the celebrity world that have kind of been sausage machined out the other end. And it's like, there for the grace of God go I, when you can see sometimes either it's amazing and they're really, really successful, or they struggle and, you know, they're not around anymore. And it's like there's got to be a happy medium where we can give them a life that might not be the one that they've chosen, you know, mum and dad and 2.4 children, but it could be as good as, just different. And let's give them that choice.
Well, children find themselves in the care system through no fault of their own, obviously, and you know, so it is important, you know, that we try to do the best we can for them. Otherwise, it's going to be a lost generation of kids, and then what future is there? You know, most of the governments over the years have all promised to do what they can do, but never have found. And I mean, when you go back over the years ago, they were even shipped out to Australia. It's awful, really, to think that people go through life, with their eyes shut, and they don't see any of this, what goes on. And the media really have a certain responsibility to try and also to educate people in their way of thinking. So what I've been using is my lived experience and my Olympic platform to relate and emphasize with the public through social media, which is a big medium really, and also get that message out there so that we can influence decision makers and influencers and bring that change and make that difference to these young people, and also give that platform so that these young people can speak about their asks, to be seen, heard and valued, because that is so important when decision makers are making decisions about these young people's lives. Listen to what these young people have to say. That's surely the most important thing.
Yeah. And there are some people, some of these young people there are our next Prime Minister. We don't know who they are, what they're capable of, what their talents are. They could be another Olympic champion. They could be, a captain of industry. We don't know, but if we don't give them half a chance, we're never going to find out, are we?
Oh, exactly. That's the whole point of building, proper foundation for them so they can actually also live a fulfilling life, a meaningful one, and to actually reach their goals, and have dreams themselves about what it is that they want to achieve. And also the most important thing is to break that cycle, so history doesn't repeat itself, because, we want to be able to make sure that, in the future, there's 110,000 kids, as I said, in the care system. We want to try and reduce those numbers, at least get them into safe, loving homes. But we will not do it if people are blindsided by what's going on. So let's talk about this. Let's bring that collaboration. Let's regulate it better, make sure it works properly. Don't allow people to, in the private side of things, it should be regulated much more and signed up to a policy to follow up what's happening with these children when the local governments sign off their responsibility and their funding to private companies, and then children are getting split from their families, and separated from one end of the country to another, siblings, and then often moved 40 times, which is unacceptable. How can they build proper foundation in relationships? How can they work on their education? Because every time they move, the curriculum is different everywhere else. How can they feel stability? This kids from the care system have already got that instability where they've been abandoned, where they've been neglected. I was sexually abused, physically abused, mentally abused. These are the things that we talk about our children, in a way that, why can't they do well for themselves? Well, you look at your children and push them out at 18, having had a good family background, let alone having been brought up in the care system, and abandoned, and with all those traumas that are going on.
You can't imagine it, can you? It doesn't compute. Why would they take them away from their siblings and put them in different parts of the country? That can't. On what planet does that make good sense? It just doesn't.
No, it doesn't. See, Jill, that's why Fatima's UK campaign is the summit in next year at the Guildhall, April 23rd, 24th. That's going to be the natural progression moving forward about where do we go from here. Apart from good practice and knowledge and influencing the decision makers, it'll also be about bringing change, asking those tough questions about why is it that corporate governing bodies do not act properly as the corporate parent? Why do they throw away their responsibilities and finance to private companies? Why are private companies allowed to make huge amounts of money out of these most vulnerable children in society without it being regulated and monitored in terms of signing a policy so we can keep track of these young people so they don't fall off the radar, so we can make sure they have a safe and loving, caring upbringing like this. That's what we all want.
This is a scandal that you are allowing, that you're going to be highlighting and showing to everybody when this summit comes. Who are the sort of people that you expect that you need to have at this summit?
Well, we're non-political, so we've got cross-party support. That's very important. So as
How
we
can they
speak,
not support it? I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? They'd be looking really bad if they didn't support this, wouldn't they?
I'm pleased to say that with the change of government, that it is looking more likely now that we have a greater understanding and a better, with a better understanding from them. And I'm already working with the Kia's office, and we're already talking about the future of our young people, how important that is from future generations, and getting it right now is so key. So and bringing those collaborations together. It's about health, because society's problems and the young people's that live in the care have got mental health issues. 27% by the time they're 14. The homeless, as I say, 33% of them at 18 when they go independent are already living homeless. 27% of under 21-year-olds that have lived in care or crossed the path of the care are in the prisons, and that's because there's nothing out there for them. Nobody's guiding them properly, so they're getting groomed, targeted. Our young girls are getting sexually abused and taken advantage of because they're vulnerable. So it's all about bringing proper programs together in order to make sure that these children are in a safe haven. And one of the things that Fatima's UK campaign does is work collaboratively with the England Football League Trust, with the 72 boroughs up and down the country, West Ham safeguarding with all the London boroughs, also with Arsenal have just been in touch. They also want to get involved with the programme as well. Essex Cricket County Club from East Anglia all the way through to East London. That's a big belt. You think about the boroughs and the young people, the very many young people that we can keep off the streets into a place where they can either do the power of arts, the power of sport, or the power of technology. We skill them up, working in these safe environments. They work with people in their own communities, and they have good role models there, and they can skill up and they can come out with jobs at the end of them as well. So they learn about life skills, which is important, which is, something that they will take with them for the rest of their lives and adapt it to whatever it is that they work within. And there are jobs such as coaching, physios, there are medics, management. Any sports venue has to have good, IT or management that they do, groundsmen. And there's so many other opportunities there for them, and there's the companies that we work with corporately as well, the private companies that are coming in, skilling up these young children, also skilling up some of their workforce to know how to deal with trauma is so important, because these kids, sometimes their behaviour is misunderstood. The trauma that they are expressing through stress, they might be triggered, is misunderstood. And if you understand trauma, you will understand more how to deal with these young people. And that's what we need to work on, especially with foster carers as well. Foster carers play a big role in these young children's lives. We want good foster carers, and it's not just an ordinary job. It's a job with a special need. We want people to look at it, and enjoy that. That can be very rewarding to have a child under their wing, and giving them the love and security of a good home, but also bear in mind that it can be traumatic with the traumas that they've been through.
This is amazing. I'm just so in awe of what you're aiming to achieve. I think anybody that has a young person's academy in the sports field that they're in, or connected to a school, and they want to make it easier for cared for children in their school, anyone with an organisation that might be able to skill up these young people to make a note of that date for the Guildhall and come along.
Yeah.
How can they get hold of tickets to come along?
Oh, well, we will publicise it, and it will be out there. But it will be, just make the date, put the dates in your diary: 23rd and 24th of April 2025 at the Guildhall in
Brilliant.
London, and also help us further by pre-ordering. You can the book My Bright Shining Star, which
Right.
comes out on October the 24th. Quarto is the publisher, but you can go on Amazon, or you can pre-order it from Waterstones as well. And it's called My Bright Shining Star. It's a lovely little book, illustrated 3 to 11-year-olds. And I think if you're looking for a lovely gift for your children, grandchildren, or friends at Christmas, this is a nice stocking filler. It's a lovely, gentle book to be read to children,
Beautiful.
especially nighttime reading.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Thank you, Fatima. And of course, you're all over social media. So if everyone can look for Fatima's UK campaign
Yeah,
and follow and like and retweet and whatever
yeah.
else you can do, please do your bit to make sure that even if it's only a small bit, that you've done something as a result of listening to this podcast.
Yeah, Jill, we're a registered charity. I do Just Giving because that's all my challenges, and Just Giving is shortlisted me amongst a few others, as somebody that they want to look to see whether or not we can win the Just Giving award for
Wow.
the amount of money that we've raised through Just Giving.
Yeah.
But that will shortly be moved across to our charity account, which is registered with obviously with the charities commissions.
Yeah.
So if there's a company out there that would like to support us, give larger amounts to the charity, we are registered. They can claw back the tax. And if anybody looking to do a challenge themselves that would like to call Fatima's campaign as a benefactor for that, we'd be delighted. So it doesn't matter how little or how much, it all helps to get these young people into working programs. We do working programs for kids in, as I said, in the power of sport, arts and technology. For one child per week, it's £20. For a whole year, it's £1,000 to keep them engaged into these working programs. So you'll be playing your part if you can support us. So I'd just like to say thank you for allowing me to share your platform, Jill, and all the best.
Thank you so much. And if anybody would like to see Fatima online, we are going to be hosting her at one of our sessions the last Tuesday in November. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. Last Tuesday in November, Fatima's going to be doing a short presentation at Collaboration Global. So if you want to get tickets for that, go to collaborationglobal.org and book the meeting via that, because I'm so excited to have you join us as well. So you can experience what our collaboration and our community is all about as well. And then we'll see people in the room who'll be tripping over themselves to help you. And this woman is walking and crossing mountains in order to move mountains. I'm so impressed. Thank you so much. Wishing you every success with everything that you do, Fatima, and look forward to seeing you in the not too distant future.
Yeah, God bless you. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you, darling.